So the first one's from Sarah, and she's in Oregon. She asks, how do online schools handle socialization? I'm worried my child won't make friends.
How do they, let me think. So I'm trying to also think, when I was doing K12, this was back like, I think 2016. So I have to say, I assume perhaps some
Now, you
things
see
are a
the
bit.
gray beard. That wasn't too long ago when it comes to me, but that's all right. All right, go ahead.
I feel so old. I'm like about to turn 27 and I'm like, I would assume that at this point there are probably some things that have changed. Like, look, back when I was doing school, this podcast wasn't, K12 was basic. So from back then, I have to be honest, I would think it's quite different now, but the one thing I do remember in that sense is getting ingrained with some form of a community. I mean, the fact that this podcast is even accessible, I would assume that there is some form of a network or place that parents can talk and discuss. The one thing that I remember having to do that perhaps now is available for kids who are doing online school is really find that community. And so whether that was, again, finding some form of a team or creating some form of a fashion club, that's something that nowadays with the access that people do have to the internet, if I was a student online school, I would probably present, like, can we create some form of a club or even some form of a Slack channel for students to interact? Because that technology just wasn't around when I was doing it.
Yeah, and you're right. In fact, K12 does a number of those kind of things. They have a big community day for our schools in California, so they all get together. Parents get together to learn and grow with each other on how to help and assist their children. In fact, what's really interesting, Arizona students got so involved in the science fair that they wanted to pass a rule to limit the number of students that could participate from one school because many.
I love that.
Yeah. I mean, all the parents and the kids would come together and they were winning the science fair too much. Let's go to another question. Mike from Texas wonders, who are the teachers in online schools? Are they as qualified as teachers in traditional schools?
I think so. I mean, I think what I would say is that I remember a lot of people, even when I talk about it now, are like, wow, so you got a GED. And people are shocked when I tell them, I mean, I graduated with a diploma. I did not get a GED from online school. So I think that kind of answers your question right there. I think that there's unfortunately two types of maybe stereotypes of people who go to online school. You may think this is a kid who maybe has a learning disability. And sure, maybe there are kids who have learning disabilities who go to online school, and maybe that's 50%. But perhaps the other 50% is someone like me. I didn't personally have a learning disability, but I did really struggle in school and fitting into that traditional mold. So I was kind of the other side of that spectrum. But the schooling, the teachers, the curriculum, it really just gives you more flexibility. There was nothing that dumbed down the education space for me or made you, go down the route of getting a GED because you're graduating like any other student.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. In fact, every teacher in an online school, all over the country, they have to be state certified. So you're right. And you mentioned flexibility. That leads to a question from a parent, Lisa, who's in Connecticut, asks, how flexible is online school? My child is a competitive athlete with a busy schedule. You talked a little bit about that. The flexibility helps you quite a bit.
The flexibility helped me so much, and I didn't really do sports, so the flexibility for me was really just my business and being able to pursue that and being able to travel. But honestly, if you are some form of a young person who has, maybe you're doing something creatively or maybe you're really into sports, I mean, online school it's really for you. The flexibility is there. I think also the anxiety that I remember having in traditional school with like going to take a test. I always had severe test anxiety. That personal connection as well that you have with a teacher. I mean, I think anyone would be silly to say that like every teacher is amazing and every student is going to relate to that teacher, because I just think that's not true. I had many experiences throughout my early schooling years where I just don't think the teachers liked me. And it wasn't necessarily personal, but like they're human, I'm human, right? Like it's impossible for a teacher to not have some form of a favorite or prefer certain kids and then ignore certain other ones, etc., right? And so with online schooling, I also didn't have that. You know, the way that guidance counselor really dissed me in that way, I just never experienced that with an online schooling teacher. You just wouldn't really face that in my experience.
Yeah. Well, one more question, and really it speaks to some of the points you made earlier. And this is John from Arizona. This parent asks, is online school challenging enough? Can students who want to go to college still go to college?
Well, I planned to go to college when I did online school. That was one of the reasons why I ended up doing online school along with the bullying and the blog, was that I found high school too hard for me. And apparently the town that I am from and that particular school, it's on the campus of the University of Connecticut. And so I've heard over the years that it is like, for being a public school, it is one of the harder public schools because they really prepare you for college. Unfortunately, I'm not good at math. I'm not good at science. And so I always had very poor grades aside from English. And so while doing research and then deciding to go to K12 in particular, one of the reasons why is because I thought I was going to be able to go to college still and not have to deal with things like test anxiety and bullying that you get in a traditional school. And I was right. I actually decided not to go to college, but I don't remember even submitting to colleges and going through the application process and the SATs. I never had one person say, like, we're not accepting you to this school because you went to online school.